let's call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock and pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 3, approval of the agenda. Gonna need a motion?
Motion to approve the agenda does have accomplishments for the co-op agreement in this, so as presented.
Okay, motion by Deb, second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay? No one, okay. Motion passes. All right, item number 4, public comment. We have Stephanie Vogel on the agenda. And Stephanie, welcome. I have 3 minutes to share your thoughts with us. And Lane, do you have a timer with you?
Sure.
Ready?
So I want to start by noting all the hard work that the school has done to keep our children safe this year. I would also like to note that while I have concerns about certain aspects of the school, I'm trying to do this in the most respectful way possible. I find that often I get very frustrated with certain things, but again, I'm trying to come from a place of curiosity and I'm making the choice to believe the best of intentions by the school board and administration. I would also like to note that I'm aware that things take time to come up with and that there's no quick fix to any of these concerns. My first concern is the dismissal time staying at 3:30. I personally have young children in school and I'm fortunate enough to have my parents pick up my kids. However, this is not the case for many other parents with young children. I'm curious as to why it was chosen to stay at 3:30. As of today, school is all in. While I can appreciate that there has to be a reason for this, it was never shared. Additionally, when the time was originally set to be 3:30, it was noted that it was only for when a building was in hybrid or distance learning. And I know that there's students still choosing to do distance learning this year, so I'd like some clarity on that. I would also like to know if the intention is to have this be the new dismissal time moving forward into next school year, and what the plans are to help with after-school care for parents with young children. I would like to know why snow days have to be e-learning days. I've seen the amount of work teachers put into one day of distance learning, and there's no comparison for the amount of work sent home for a snow day. I thought there used to be snow days built into the school calendar. I think it would be in the best interest of the kids if they could actually have a real snow day like I had. A day off with no homework, the ability to sleep in or even make memories with family instead of having to log on by a certain time and complete homework that does not equate that of a normal school day. I noticed the school calendar was adjusted quite dramatically from the proposed one. When the building project was passed, I'm wondering why this is. Many parents have already set vacations for this time frame that was supposed to be ours with our children, and now they'll be in school. I'm a little frustrated that the calendar was just posted online without any explanation or communication. Had it not been for hearing this from a school employee, I wouldn't have known about it. I'd also like to know why the school students were left in distance learning for so long. I know that a lot of work goes in behind the scenes for this, and I would like to understand the numbers and what was seen to keep them from being in school for so long. I feel it should have been evaluated more frequently, and the moment students could have gone back in a hybrid model, they should have been brought back to school. The effect of the pandemic is having on mental health is severe, and I see several young children and adolescents daily with mental health problems due to seclusion. I feel the district could have worked harder towards getting students back in school before the first part of the year. I certainly could be wrong in this assumption. However, from the outside looking in, it seems like the decision to be distance learning until a certain day was made, and then no further evaluation took place. But the building project, while I understand that some changes needed to be made from the concept, I don't feel that it was well explained to voters in the meetings that were had. Many of the benefits the new school was supposed to have disappeared from the floor plan found on the website.
All right, thank you for your comments. They have been noted. All right. If you ladies would like to stay for the rest of the meeting, you can, or you can leave at this time if you'd like. So, whatever. All right, number 5, approval of the consent agenda. Need a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, Carmel. A
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right. Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Okay, motion passes. Okay, number 6, communications reports. 6.1, administration. Is Denise here?
Denise is not here this
Okay.
evening.
She just asked that we have the latest community ed flyer in the packet so you could all see
Okay.
that. That was her report. She's
Okay.
doing that every month instead of a big book. She used to.
All right, sounds like it's working okay. All right, Jim, you're up.
Right, good evening, everybody. I just saw in the packet, I'll just kind of go through, I don't have anything, or I don't have much extra to add to this. Last Thursday, the State High School League did specify they're gonna have winter state tournaments. That's been something that's been discussed for quite a bit. They chose to stop them last year, they chose not to have them in the fall. And they have decided to move forward. There's gonna definitely be some changes. They're gonna have the girls and the boys basketball tournaments at the exact same time at Target Center. Usually they're weeks apart. Wrestling is most likely not going to be in one of the big venues, just because again, it costs them hundreds of thousands of dollars to rent it. So they're looking for different smaller venues around the state to hopefully have some multiple, all the classes won't be together. So that's still in the works. And the same thing with dance, and again, they're the 4 sports that we have. They're working on hockey and things like that does not pertain to us. This week, I expect to get the section dates. They had to wait till that state tournament time period was set down to know what weeks before would be the section. So the end of our season is probably gonna look a little bit different at this point. They have specified March 6th for our dance in Montevideo, and it's gonna be, again, there's gonna be a lot of changes because of the limitations of fans, how many they allow in, because you can't allow more than 150, so they're probably gonna have to have multiple events throughout the day there, cleaning and disinfecting in between. The winter sports are well underway here. It's going okay, I guess. Don't know really any other way to put it than that. I think overall, I think we are, as teams and as fans, we're probably doing better than most, if not all the other places we go. I hear that at the away events. One of the difficulties are we're doing our best to try to abide by all the rules and regulations that get thrown our way, and some of them are almost impossible, as far as distance. Like over in Maynard for the junior high games, we're not supposed to have anybody within 12 feet of the playing surface. Well, that'll take us to the back row of the Maynard gym. So we bring them in a little bit. We're marking off the first 2 or 3 rows or something like that, and but again, working real hard to try to make adjustments. We do not put the people here in our home gym on the same side of as the players. We leave the bleachers partially into the wall. We don't have like the top 3 rows out, and then we're able to social distance the players in their chairs. And I think what makes it difficult for our fans and our players is we'll go to some other sites and they're not necessarily doing all that stuff. They're basically making a conscious decision that some of the things are just not going to follow. Well, then, our people will come back and say, why are we doing it? And I guess that's just what I've worked on with our coaches. We're going to do our best to abide by the guidelines the best we can and try to keep tugging away so we have the best chance of finishing the season. Number 3, we've had to wait until we find out about the state tournaments to know when spring seasons are starting. So now we have an idea, and we'll have to make some adjustments, like we'll probably have to move a few baseball and softball games because the season's going to go later into June than it normally does. And again, they're hoping to have a completely full season for our spring sports this year. The challenge is going to be track, because right now we have we're scheduling quite a few track meets where we have a lot of teams come together, and we'll have to wait to hear what they're going to allow. Are they going to allow 3 teams at track meets? So then that's going to basically change the structure of the meets we go to when there's a dozen teams there. And again, but that's not going to come out until early March, like March 6th or something like that. So it's going to be a while before we can finalize a lot of that kind of stuff. We did withdraw from the one-act play. They chose not to change the date. A lot of events were moved back when we came back after Christmas, and our instructor had some things go on with her. Our coach had some things go on, and she was not able to have some of the practices and get everything organized, and there just wasn't enough time. So basically, she did come back just recently, this past Saturday, and finish the fall play, and she videoed it, and I think she's gonna put it on the website so people can view what the kids did. And then we're gonna do something like that. So we are still going to do a one-act play and figure out if we have parents in and do a performance in the gym. That's kind of what we're leaning towards right now. And also have it out there so people can watch it on our YouTube channel or something along those lines. But we're not able to get it in to go to the actual competition. Spelling Bee took place here on the 26th. They did it virtually. Mrs. Sunderland took care of it. There were 10 5th and 6th graders that qualified, and 8th, 7th, and 8th graders, and Kennedy Shamla in 5th grade won it, and she competed virtually on February 5th, and they did not give me the results of that yet. We did BPA changed completely this year, where normally they go over to Minnesota West and compete at that regional competition. This year everything was done virtually, so throughout the course of a whole week, they would come in and out of the library, use the computers, and do everything they had to compete virtually. And I think she just had the kids in and watched the award ceremony this morning. And again, I don't know the results, how many we have going on, but the state is also going to be done virtually. They will not head to the cities this year in person. Math League's been competing virtually. Today was the 5th competition, and Mr. Olson has 13 students on the team. So that's actually fairly exciting, because last year we almost didn't have Math League because he didn't have anybody signed up, and to go from where we're considering canceling it 1 year to have 13 students, I thought that was a real positive thing. And Grace Mott is having a really good season. She's one of the top 5 competitors in the district at this point, and he thinks she's got a very legit chance to possibly qualify for the state tournament. Mr. Mott is running the Knowledge Bowl, and like everything else, it's all done virtually, and he's a very hard worker. I tell you, he's doing everything he can to offer opportunities to work around the basketball schedules and get the kids in. And he's happy with how the students are doing in the virtual meets they've had. They're kind of in the middle of the pack, and he says it's going pretty well, considering he lost quite a few competitors from last year's team. And I guess I already commented on the recording of the fall play. So are there any questions?
Okay, so on the sports schedules, have all the games been scheduled? It's just the tournaments they don't know about?
Or are you talking basketball?
Well, I'm talking about all the sports, or is it not decided for all the sports yet?
No, well, for the winter sports it is. We have all of our regular season scheduled, but I have not been able to put in section events and stuff like that yet, or state, because we were waiting. The section had to wait on the state so they knew what weeks we'd have events.
Okay.
You try to schedule about a year in advance, so a majority of the spring season is scheduled at this point. I mean, you're allowed to have, I think, 20 baseball and softball games. The softball season is complete. We have our 20. Baseball, I have 15 or 16, which we usually only do about 18, because with pitch counts and all that, we don't have enough pitchers to be able to do the 3 games a week and things like that. So that's mostly done, and about half golf is taken care of. Majority of tennis is, but track is really up in limbo right now. So, everything I have to wait on until I get more dates as far as starting and stopping and tournaments and things like that to finish.
Okay, all right. We'll do what we can do, I guess. Okay, any more questions for Jim? If not, you're up, Judd.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. What I have for you is this sheet that has the nice little colors on it. I had promised you that I would give you some data when it comes to our reading scores, so I'm presenting that to you today. I do have some notes on there, just my thoughts on some general areas. I will be covering those, but I'll just kind of go group by group and kind of give you the rundown on that. Now, I'll say that overall, because of distance learning, winter benchmarking did have to take place during the distance learning time frame. To me, that tempers some of these percentages to a degree, because Usually that's done one-on-one with the proctor and the student, whereas we might have had some supports at home that could have been happening, and that's, there's no judgment within that. It's just, to me, is an element of something that I need to acknowledge. The first thing I want to do is I want to highlight the blue at the very top under kindergarten. You'll notice that we had a significant drop, and I have a really good explanation for you on that. Remember, this is, I've been talking about phonics for quite a while now. It's been a year, in fact. And we implemented our Jolly Phonics program. And the interesting thing about phonics is that you learn the letter sound before you learn the actual symbol of the letter. And so within this program, there's movements that go with it. There's some cool little mnemonics that go with it. And then they associate, like an F would be like a fish, and then they usually make like a little fish movement like that. And what we're finding is that this is totally a paradox from what we normally learn, which is we learn the letter, and like you probably would remember seeing a letter A with a picture of an apple, and then the word apple, and you'd say A is apple, A is apple, apple. And what we're finding is that with the phonics, without the kids even knowing what the letters mean, they're actually starting to sound out words and starting the process of reading, which is mind-blowing to me. I mean, it's one of those things that we just, hey, you learn the letter and then you go through the alphabet and then you learn how to read. That's just kind of the process. Well, phonics turns that on its head. So it's not a surprise, because when we're doing a composite score for the kindergarten, it doesn't take into account the fact that they're not learning the letter. So we're scoring really low on the letter recognition, which is then harming our scores overall. So just something I really wanted to acknowledge there. Big highlights, we have grade 1 and grade 2. Grade 1 saw a 100% increase, and grade 2 saw a 50% increase. Again, super excited about that, but again, I'm trying to temper my enthusiasm until we can see what happens when the kids are back and we have more time in school. And then going through 3 and 4, 3 had a little bit of an increase. If we take like a 65 student average class, because these are both schools combined, each student comes in at about 1.6%. So you can have a swing of a couple kids either direction, and that's going to increase or decrease your kind of your 4.5 points pretty easily there. Pretty good increase in grade 5, and then grade 6 had a modest increase also. I'd also like to point out to you that we have anywhere from, when we're talking about true distance learning, we've gone anywhere from 6 up to 10 weeks. I do have one class in East who has been in distance learning mode 10 weeks so far this year because of contact tracing happening a couple different times and impacting that classroom. Again, kind of excited to see what happens come our spring benchmarking. I'm hoping to see some good gains across the board. If we can keep everybody in, that'd be fantastic. And I'm really excited to see what the phonics does. Now again, you're going to hear me talk about phonics continually, and I just want you to keep in mind that this is the long game, okay? Read well by 3rd grade, so we need to get this phonics program through a kindergarten class, 1st grade class, and a 2nd grade class, and we should really see that first MCA score happening in 3rd grade with the reading hopefully taken off. So again, long game on that. So that's what I have for you. Do you have any questions for me? Yeah.
Help me understand the percentages. If the percentage of kids are at or above the target scores, if the percentages are going down, then we have less kids at or above those scores, and you just said that we had made gains.
Modest gains, primarily modest gains. So grade, I believe grade 4 was the one that saw a decrease, and then kindergarten I explained through the phonics. Everybody else had increased. So I have it color coded there for a reason.
The first grade though went from 68 to 32 and then down to 23.
Nope, so the colors are the corresponding grades. So when you look at 1st grade, 18-19 is pink, and then you have 19-20 is pink.
Got it. Okay.
So what I have for you for this round is I kept the blue with the blue, the yellow with the yellow.
Okay. And then how are we coordinating the kindergarten curriculum with our preschool curriculum?
That's the element. So when I was talking to our intervention coach, her direct quote to me was, you'll see the 1, 2, 3, 4th dash under the new phonics program. I have supplemental letter recognition. That's something that we're going to need to make an adjustment. We need to increase our letter recognition in kindergarten to adjust for that composite score, but then we're also going to need to start implementing some form of phonics The tricky part is we don't have that answer yet because the phonics program is primarily a K-1 program. So we're gonna have to do a little bit of digging to see what we can do phonics-wise.
So are we still using Teaching Strategies Gold then for preschool?
Yes,
or-
yes, nothing has changed as
Okay.
far as preschool curriculum.
So that then is more letter recognition, and then we're doing a complete 180 when it comes to kindergarten.
Yep.
I would like us to really get on sync so we don't have that
Yep,
disconnection
absolutely.
then. That'd
Yep.
be awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
Wonderful, thank you.
If I could just add one thing, Julie. I love the data here. I love the hardcore look at this. I love that there's goals. Judd meets every Friday with the reading team. By the way, that reading team we're paying for with with the lead of that group with our A&I money this year. For 3 years, yes, that was gonna be my next sentence. So this is not a one and done thing. This is gonna continue on, and I appreciate, I also put something in the mail for you, Judd, today about early learning, and Debbie, if you have any information on that, but I know Judd's already talked about digging into how do we make that transition. But some information in the school email today for you on that too.
Yeah,
so.
and it's especially important with the kindergarten ready portion of our World's Best Workforce Plan.
Absolutely.
Okay, if there's no more questions for Judd, we'll go to Melissa.
Okay, hello everyone. So, today was our first day of All In. So today was the first day of All In the high school. And the day went really pretty well. Have a few classrooms that seem crowded, but we've made some adjustments, we're working on it, gonna make some adjustments and some tweaking. But basically what my report does tonight is outlines the steps that it takes to make a learning model switch. So on December 28th, our incident response team met and talked about what we would determine to do. And at that point, we felt that we didn't know what the effect of the holidays were going to have at that point yet, and so we chose to stay in the hybrid model. And then every Thursday, we get our numbers, our county numbers, and we kept tracking those numbers, and thankfully we didn't see that holiday surge that we thought we were going to see, and so our numbers went down. And so then we began the process of looking to change the learning model. And I just want to explain to you that it's not as simple as saying, well, the numbers looks good, let's go back to school. So what we have to do actually is we have to have a meeting with the incident response team, or we actually call it the advisory committee. That committee is made up of all of the administrators. We have board member on there, we have teachers on there, we have the cooks, custodians on there, transportation on there, and parent representation on there. And we have to, as a team, look at it and discuss what we think is safest for students. So,
May I interrupt? We also have Countryside Public Health,
oh, yes.
nurse, and
And-
our regional coordinator
From
from
the
Marshall.
Southwest Service Squad, yes, absolutely. And so when we met, we decided that we would want to look at going all in. And I should back up before that, in preparation for that meeting, I went back and forth a lot with our Southwest West Central Service Cooperative person, because my fear was one thing that was gonna hang us up, was I said you have to have at least 3 feet of distance between the students. And we have a couple classrooms, like I just visited a 7th grade history class today where you got almost 30 kids in there. There's no way there's 3 feet between those desks in there. It's just not possible. There's only 2 sections in 7th grade. So then I got forwarded to the Minnesota Department of Health and had to go back and forth with their epidemiologist. And in the end, after 3 phone calls with them, they determined it was a recommendation and not a requirement. So we had to get through that roadblock. So once we cleared that hurdle and then met with our committee, then it was decided we should go all in. And then what you have to do is you have to submit a learning model, like proposal, like this is, we want to make this switch and this is why.
And so, another thing we had to get, MDH, MDE, Countryside Public Health, SWWC to go along with is that because of our school size at the high school, we wanted to roll everybody in at the same time instead of phase in. And so they did make that exception for us, so that was good. And then when you make the learning model switch, you have to put all the data in to support it. So I've included that data here on this page tonight. And then you have to put all the mitigation that you have in place and any other things you feel like you might want to add to it. So we had to put all of this in place and get it approved by everybody. So MDH had to say, yep, looks good. MDE, SWWC, Countryside Public Health. And so they were very pleased with our plan. They thought our plan was very well thought out. And they thought we had a lot of safety measures in place for our students, and they were ready to go along with that plan. And you can see on the bottom of page 2, there's some additional things that we're going to do because they want to make sure that we don't get complacent in our safety. And so our plan is to continually post information on our website. We're going to try to work with our student leadership groups like National Honor Society, Student Council to try to do some video promoting COVID protocols. Mrs. Sunderland's 8th graders are already working on posters to promote keeping those COVID protocols in place. So they have to, for their assignment, they have to take a picture of an appropriate COVID protocol and make a poster about it. And those posters will be hung up around the school. So that is something that they're doing already. And then we thought we'd work with our upper class student leaders and really help them to become role models for younger students. So I would say, generally speaking, we had a good day today. Students are doing a good job following the protocols. So, any questions?
Are we able to purchase dividers for those students in those classes that we can put on a desk?
That's a possibility. Kim has some samples of them in her office. That is a possibility. A couple of things that we can do is we can, have the teacher, double mask, so the teacher can mask and shield. What we were told in those situations that we could, if the unfortunate thing, if you can't keep the 3 feet distance, if we had a student that tested positive for COVID, we would have to expand our quarantine circle. So the number of students that we would have to quarantine would be bigger because the students were in a smaller confined space. Another option that we could look at is, and this is why we're happy we're trying it for 3 days and we can really look and monitor and adjust. But for some of those classes that, if we think they're too big, we could try to split the class and put, say, half of the class in the cafeteria and have, but to me it seems like then you're still in hybrid mode. But you could do that for a safety precaution. You could put half the kids in like the cafeteria and have them social distance, having them log into, say, a history class. So you could just split the class. So that's another option that we could consider.
I was just thinking, I understand the teachers with the extra shield, but it's more if the students are too close. That's the area we need to look at. And, even if they test positive, who's there to say that they're not an asymptomatic carrier? And I just heard over the news tonight, they're seeing a 10% surge in youth and in COVID cases. A 10% increase in youth.
Oh, in youth.
Who are now getting, because many more schools are going back to all in or whatnot. So I guess if we could get some of those that've got the legs and we could put them in between, I think that would be a great way to spend some of the county's COVID money that hopefully they would give to us.
I know we have some samples in the office of tabletop models that are clear and they just sit right around their desk.
Yeah.
So that is something we could look to do. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Or you have more face shields too that kids can.
We do. We have a ton of face shields. That would be something we could do too.
Yeah.
And maybe then in those
close
tight classes, they could put those on,
Yeah, when you have the tight
Right.
occupancy there, so good.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't agree with you more, Melissa. I think I have had so many parents, just the mental health needs and critical things that kids are going through right now. We've got to do whatever we can as a district to keep these kiddos back in our facilities. So
I would agree.
I would hope that we could be very proactive about that.
Absolutely. Okay, anything else?
I just wanted to add one thing. I'm working with several of my colleagues. We meet, our nurse meets with the area nurses on Tuesday. Superintendents and nurses meet and this has been going on since this all started, every Wednesday at 9, followed by a superintendent group at 10. And we look at, every week, looking at the numbers, looking at ideas, sharing ideas. What are people doing for plexiglass? And I know that some of my colleagues in the cities are struggling to figure out how to even come back in because they have to do that roll just because they're so large. And so they just finished rolling in, is it 5 and 6, I think? And trying to figure out how to roll in 7 and 8, and maybe by the middle of March or so, they'll be to high school kids. One of the things I shared was that you had secured Bethany.
Oh, yeah.
The Bethany gym for some of our high ed classes, which they follow their protocols, which frees up our gym spaces here for band and choir at different times of the day, I believe, which frees up music, those larger music rooms for some of the kids too. So like you're saying, we maybe could do something with that too. So it actually, in the cohorting you're doing in the lunchroom with, kids get this much time in the lunchroom so they can all be social distance, then they go to the gym, and the kids that were in the gym go to the lunchroom. And a lot of those ideas are being looked at by other schools, so I take that as a compliment. Thank you.
You know, Sherry, you said that, I think you probably can't touch this on this in your report, but you were saying that each of the classes is eating lunch, not mixing with other grades. Have we had to add lunch periods to make that work?
Melissa just broke them in
I
half.
broke them in half, so like,
Okay.
I have like 7th graders in the gym while the 8th graders are eating, and then I flip
Flip 'em around.
them. So they have 15 minutes in the gym and 15 minutes for lunch.
Okay.
So they get a little movement time, there aren't so many going through the line that it takes so long to get their food. So, yeah. So instead of 3 lunches, there's basically 6 serving times.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
But you really didn't have to extend the lunch hours is what I'm getting at. Okay.
No.
All right. Okay, Sherry, you're up.
Oh. I'm gonna ask Julie and Carmel, under committees here, to talk a little bit about where we're at on construction. Julie and Carmel, again, are our reps on our project oversight committee. My report has been is in the packet. But I want to add a couple of other things. Reading a bit today, and Stephanie, I'm sure you know much more about this than I do, but I'm reading today about the UK variant. Scary stuff. So like you said, Debbie, the more we can protect our kids here, that's the variant I'm very concerned about right now, B117. Mask breaks. I want to talk about mask breaks. Judd did some more data collection today, and Melissa's been thinking about the answer. An individual in the community asked the question of all of you, what are we doing for mask breaks? So that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about. And Judd, I know you've got that math right here on the top of your head because you just did it today. So if you wouldn't mind sharing some data. Now, right now we're in an odd time when it's 15 below and we're not sending kids outside. So this is an odd time, but usually there's recess. And so go ahead, Judd, if you want to share a little bit about what you've got, the work you did to answer the question for everybody about mask breaks.
At the elementary level, over the course of a day, there's approximately, I believe, 95 minutes that's mask-free for students, which taken into account for the course of the day, accounts to about 20% of their actual day. They are not wearing masks. When it comes, and part of that also, and I just had to figure out a real loose number for it, is we do not ever deny students the opportunity to do this, grab their water bottle and take a drink, okay? So as an opportunity to just get some fresh air, get some hydration, because we all know how it's been long enough how it feels, your face gets a little sweaty, you get parched, whatnot. So that's an opportunity that they have. When we take the recess element is a big chunk of that, because we're looking at 25 minutes a day. I have a 10-degree cold weather rule, so we go with real feel of 10 degrees, and anything below that, then we say we're going to do indoor recess. And cutting that 25 minutes out knocks it down to about 16% of their day then would be mask-free if they didn't have that. The one little caveat to all this is that I believe afternoon snack only goes K through 3, so 4, 5, and 6 would have a small 10 to 15 minute chunk in addition that would be masked that the younger kids do not yet. So there are plenty of opportunities for students to not have their masks on. However, the real hindrance for us at this point is with the new safe learning plan. When we're inside, the expectation is that we're wearing masks. So in order to get a break, we're gonna have to bundle up, go outside, go for a walk, come in, unbundle, and then we're looking at, 15 minutes or more, probably more depending on the younger grades, of lost contact time in the classroom. Now, you know what? Mental health, taking breaks, all that aside, I know it's not just about the contact time, but that's something that we gotta weigh in, because taking a break every hour, every 2 hours, we'll be looking at losing a quarter of that contact time with the teachers. So I just wanted to share that data with you so you know that it's not just nonstop wearing masks that's going on.
Melissa, in this building,
Yeah, I could say, so the students have a mask break in the morning when they're eating their breakfast, and that is during their advisory. So their advisory is 30 minutes long. They have a mask break during their lunch, so there's another 30 minutes. And I would, I don't have a hard, fast data number, but I would bet 90% of our students have their own water bottles, and they are continually drinking water throughout the day. And so they get a lot of water, every time they're taking a drink of water, they're getting a mask break. A lot of our teachers allow students to snack in the classroom because of our longer school day, so when they're taking a snack break, again, they're getting a mask break. And so I think
they know how to use it too. The other day, between class, there's a 7th grader walking by himself down here, takes the mask off, slow sip.
Oh, yeah.
He's walking about here, he sees me watching him, another slow sip, eye to eye.
Oh, yeah.
Now about down to there. They're figuring out ways. And then by the time he got to that corner and he was gonna go that way, he screwed on his water cap and went around the corner and put his mask back on, so.
I thought a student didn't have.
I gotta give him credit for creativity, but I noticed he was by himself, so he's taking his little break himself, figuring it out.
I thought a student didn't have a mask on the other day and they had a sucker in their mouth, and I could just barely see the stick, but that was giving them a pretty good mask break, sucking on those suckers. So yeah, they are getting creative and getting these mask breaks.
Thank you. 2 more things I have. 94 staff members have been vaccinated. That's 56% of our staff that we know of. There might be other people that went other places or had vaccinations because they live with a medical provider. I've heard of that possibly. We don't know for sure, but we do know of 94, which is 56% of our staff. And a few more that Laura found out that went from maybes to yeses, and she's gonna try and find them vaccinations yet this week. And the last thing I wanted to add is Melissa Sparks has been voted to represent the South region of MREA. She came to me a couple months ago and said, well, would you support this? And I said, absolutely. To have a person in our district that has direct access to what's going on in the legislature, direct access to the whole process of making law, following finance, following the governor's budget proposal. Now, she's just getting trained, so don't ask any really tough questions, Scott.
My first meeting's tonight.
But that is super good for our district. And she was voted in by the people in southern Minnesota. I think you said your region goes to Mankato. Does it go to
I'm the South
Mankato?
Central Zone, so I'm just about up to 94, and then all the way south, and then look around the bottom of the Twin Cities. And the Twin Cities obviously is out of it, but it's a pretty big region, yeah.
You still only suffer for voting for you.
Well, expect me to ask some tough questions for you to convey to them. I think that's a great thing. And I think MREA does a great job representing rural Minnesota, so,
Yeah.
yeah. Julie and Carmel, would you share, if you wouldn't mind, some of your thoughts and where we've been on construction?
All right, well, we had a POC meeting this morning. So the good news is that our construction management company is finding ways to save us some money, which is great. I think the last 2 items today were over $100,000 a piece. So one of them being going to terrazzo tile instead of just the poured monolithic terrazzo. The quality should be there. I mean, the lifespan is there. The maintenance is pretty much the same, but that's a big ticket item, $100,000. So they're working on those types of things. Another one was with Wilmer Electric was submitting an option for going with aluminum wiring for the service instead of copper, for instance, and using some flex conduit instead of solid conduit. Again, that was over $100,000. So not all of these things have been accepted yet, but they're being put on the table so that we can take a look at them. So those are some nice numbers that we can work with. They are also, I think he's saying this next week, they were putting out the bids for the 2 extra classrooms.
Yep.
So that's gonna come, hopefully he says the money that they've allotted for that will be okay. Prices are starting to go up, but the good thing is we've locked everything in that we've signed a contract on. So we won't be getting any increases on those products if they go up. He had some samples of precast, which we're going to have them continue to tweak some of those samples till we get the right color combination we want. And they're starting to get submittals, which means the companies who got the bids for specific products are now going to be sending us samples for approval based on the colors that we've selected in the past. So that whole process is starting now, which is normal for this part of the project. Anything else, Camille?
Yeah, I think we kind of decided the POC group would meet every couple weeks. It's
Yeah,
kind of the
sounds
goal,
like-
but maybe there'd be a week or 2 there where we wouldn't necessarily have to, but that's
Right.
kind of the plan for now.
Great. And they're starting to haul the fill in so they can try to get that done before the road restrictions and weather starts setting back later. So it's nice to have everybody wanting to be on the ball and keep that schedule going so we can get started when we want to, when it's time to start. So, any questions on that? All right.
I don't have anything else.
Okay. All right.
I do have one question for you.
Yeah.
You were, someone was going to talk about the Due North plan.
Oh,
From Governor Walsh.
sure. The Due North plan is 7 tenets about how to improve education in Minnesota. I forgot to grab that thing on my desk, but they range everything. One of them is really outside of our control because it's very financial and it's very, what's the governor's agenda gonna be, budget gonna be to support all of this. So the, Jim, can you run to my office and grab that blue piece of paper on my desk? It says Due North on the top. Sorry, you guys.
No, he doesn't have the key to get in.
Oh, okay. Should be sitting right on top of my desk. I forgot to go back and grab it. But one of the components that I'm very excited about is early childhood. It really stresses the summer component of early childhood. I know one of the things, Lane, I hope I quote you right on this, but how do we fund early childhood? How do we make it work for people? And is that we fund it. You know, we've every once in a while had to move a significant amount of money to support the early childhood and community ed funds? And is it time to look at maybe supporting that fully so every 3 and 4-year-old can go to preschool? I'd love to get there, and it's possible with, thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
It's possible with this approach that maybe we can make that happen. Debbie, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I agree. I know our Head Start program is year-round, full-time. And the difference it makes in those kiddos' lives for the parents, amazing. Yep.
Yeah, thank you so much. So another area is how do we recover from the pandemic? There's more than we know, and Debbie, I know you're reading about this too. It's not just the mental health, it's the how do we bring kids back? What's the long-term effects of not having been in school? What are the long-term effects of not having been in school? So that's number one, is how do we recover from COVID-19? Number two, every child receives a first-class education, which means we address the standards. One of the things when Melissa was talking about Megan Sunderland doing the pictures of what's going on, that's actually a standard. Visual communications is a standard for 7th and 8th grade communications. What about the pandemic enrollment loss? Our enrollment loss to COVID-19 is 24 students who decided to go either homeschooling or to an online school. That's what, Kim, $250,000 roughly. How do we make amends for that? So, third, every student learns in a safe and nurturing environment. Focusing on student, teacher, staff relationships. What are the supports we need for mental health? One of the things Jen and Melissa and I are already talking about is how do we weave mental health into our summer school program this year? And one of the things we're hoping we can do is get social workers as a part of it. And I've been working with Mitch Kent and Pack for Families. Have you heard, Debbie, about Cognito with a K? Mm-hmm. They're probably getting tired of Mitch going there and asking about Cognito, but we're one of the schools that gets to have the first training so that we can weave that into our summer school. Every student learns in a safe and nurturing environment. Launch a statewide family engagement model. Every student learns in the classroom with caring and qualified teachers. Qualified, there are a lot of talk about this is, do we hire and retain students of color? Teachers of color, sorry. How about educator career pathways? How do we get good teachers into our schools? Recruit, retain, support teachers of color and Indigenous teachers. Next is expand access to opportunities for students of color and Indigenous. Expand opportunities for those kids. We are blessed to have a large Micronesian population here, and we keep hitting roadblocks. How do we communicate? How do we communicate? You just, thank you very much, approved hiring Sonia to be our ELL teacher next year. And one of the reasons we hired her is because her belief is you go where they live and you meet them and you learn about them, you appreciate them, you talk to them. When we're different, they put up roadblocks. Our school nurse today needed to get to a family. They had blocked every call from the school. They blocked her calls. How do we get to them? We've got to build relationships with these people. And that's what this opportunities for students of color and Indigenous students. And then specifically talking about rural Minnesota, making sure rural Minnesota has the coursework options, including AP, IB, International Baccalaureate, community school model statewide. And my definition of a community school is a school that if we need to, we help provide dental services. Maybe once a month, there's a mobile dental service that comes. Maybe we also provide more food for our kids. The things that people would normally get in the community now become a part of what we offer in the schools. And then like the seventh part is 21st century education, which has to do with funding the schools from the state level. That, in a nutshell, is due north. You'll be hearing more about it. When I did an interview with Sam last week for the paper, I said, we've already started. I bet we're 75% there. This isn't anything that's new and we've got to start from scratch. So we'll keep working on it. I'd love to keep reporting on it. Thank you for
If I can
reminding
add
me
a
of that.
comment, and just to maybe suggestion, I love some of the things that we've done, like providing food, but I think we have to keep in our forefront all the time the barriers and the challenges that people face. We can't just have parents come 2 days a week from 7:30 to 8:30 or 9 in the morning to pick up their food. People are driving and going to work. And so we have to make sure that we have those options available for individuals who are working, and that we make it easy for them to access those extra services for their children and whatnot. So I think a lot of it is really taking a look at not just what's convenient for the district, but what is the best for that family, what are the challenges, and I'm tickled pink that we hired Sonia. The best route to get into some of these communities is to hire somebody from within that community. That's how you get into those communities, because then you build that trust, so.
And we hired an individual from the community last winter, I can't remember when. But I think that's a good way for Sonia to begin to work with them, is to work with him as a leader in his community. Okay, thank you.
Let's see, number 7, discussion items. Do we have any discussion items?
Yeah, I'd like to just bring up a couple things, since it is discussion, whatnot, and just really visit about communication, because I think, just from listening with Ms. Vogel and what she was sharing, it's a lot about communication. How are we communicating decisions to the parents? And obviously not very well, if there's a lot of questions that are coming up. But what is the reason for staying now at 3:30 dismissal time? Because I don't even know what it is.
What's the reason for the 3:30 dismissal time?
Yeah.
Well, it's a part of the executive order that we have to have 30 minutes of prep time for teachers that are teaching distance learning, which is a prep time for them. Out of my control,
But we're not distance learning anymore. We're
no,
all
but we still have kids that are distance learning.
So in our teacher contract, though, what does it say? Isn't it more about days versus hours, or I'm trying to remember back how it used to
I
be.
don't know that the governor's orders impacted that. We couldn't go, I was just saying to these guys earlier that a lot of schools, when COVID hit, went to a 4-day week and had Mondays for everything, which was a great solution for those people that had a 5-day week, but we didn't have that, so we had to find 30 minutes in the day.
I just listened to a negotiation seminar last week one night, and they did have an attorney speak to that, because a lot of the stuff they're finding with the governor's orders, executive order, is not necessarily lining up with their contract and what's spelled out in there. And he did say at this time, with the executive orders, that's giving some leniency to some of the items in the contracts.
So I guess then how are we making sure that, I mean, that's a great response, but how do we make sure that the folks who are asking the questions know about that? And this is the reason why. You know, if it's a note sent home, or I don't know what it is, but just something to think about with our communication. Just taking a look at the calendar change too, and I'm going to say this again, you've heard me say it before, we're putting the building in front of our children. If we're making that calendar change to lengthen that time that they're out of the building again, we're already talking about mental health issues and whatnot, and now we're letting this construction company dictate to us what we need to do to make this building happen. And to me, it's putting the needs of the building versus of our kiddos. The other thing is, sometimes it's not what you put in writing, but what you see. I received multiple calls after seeing 17 of our kids on Snow Week on the stage, unmasked, cheek to cheek, taking a picture. And people were livid about that. The fact that we're not following our plan, we're not following the governor's executive order, and the bottom line is, even if they did it for one little snippet, that does not follow what we say we're going to do within our district. And at that time, we were still hybrid, and they were livid about it, because you're letting this happen, but yet you're telling me our kids can't come back to school. Well, why would I send my kids back to school? Because I can't trust this district for following their own plan. So I think we have to be super, super vigilant and cautious about whatever we do. If we say we're wearing masks, then we have to wear the mask. We have to follow our plan in that executive order. So I think the nonverbals that are showing up on Facebook, which we know circulate like hot fire, are also sparking a lot of discontent with some of our taxpayers. So communication is vital.
Can I answer something, Julie?
Sure.
I think one of the things they did, we got notified, the State High School League came out and talked to us about team pictures and that kind of stuff. And one of the exceptions they made to the masks are required by players full time, is that for all of our team pictures, when they bring the, we bring that organization in to do the little frame things, as well as when we have the newspaper come up, we get the kids together, and I wasn't there, but I'm assuming this is what they did also. But when we get the kids together for the picture, they wear their masks, the photographer gets them and has them get in place, they stand there, and then they're told on the count of 3 or whatever, hold your breath, remove your mask, and they do that, take the picture, and then they put their mask back on. So that's how we were told to do it for sports this year.
Yep.
And this came out about a month ago, and I'm assuming that I think they probably did the same thing, because I know Mrs. Sparks had asked me at one point how we were taking pictures for our sporting events, and that's what we were told to do.
I understand that came from the high school league, but the Snow Week is not covered under Minnesota State High School League authority, correct?
Right.
Okay, so then we probably shouldn't have done that. Just saying. It did not send a very good picture, a nonverbal picture to our constituents, our taxpayers, so.
Well, I think things like Snow Week and that kind of thing, I mean, if it's following the same protocol as photos for sports and other things, I mean, there's a consistency there for that. I can't necessarily say that was, should have been handled totally differently, but it's very hard to keep everybody in line and keep ahead of all these rules and regulations, and everybody's doing the best they can. I don't think there's anybody that's intentionally trying to subvert that, so.
I think the picture that was in the newspaper that had masks. So, if they're taking a picture individually with someone else, that's going to be a little hard to control.
Well, no, this was 17 of all the candidates together that was on Facebook, and again, I'm going to go back to, then why do we have a plan? If we can't even follow our own plan, then that erodes the confidence that the community has in us. If we've got a plan out there and there's executive orders, if we can't do that, then they're not trusting us. They're not trusting us, so that's my point. And if we want the kids back in as much as we say we do, then by golly, then we need to do like some of the other schools do. There are several schools that have stopped basketball games because people not in the stands or in the stands have not had masks on. They get one warning. They don't put them on, they're escorted out of the gym, and the game does not start until they leave the gym. I mean, that's how strict some of the districts are, because they want those kids back in school. And I'm just saying, if we have our policies, we have to follow them. It's black and white.
I think it's just difficult if they do that, throw it on Facebook. How in the world are you ever going to police that? I don't think anybody in the school district, like we talked, said, take your mask off, take the picture. But that's the hard part that I see. And I had a lot of people that didn't see that picture you talked about, only saw the picture she had in the paper, said, God, it would have been nice to see their faces so you know who it was. So I got, just the opposite feedback of what you got.
Well, the fact of it is it happened in our building, in the district's building, when our sign on the door says, these are required.
Right.
That's the difference.
Right.
That's the difference.
But I hope you're not blaming our staff for not trying. That's what I don't think
I'm
it's
not blaming anybody. I'm just saying this is what I heard, and I think we need to improve our communication, because that sends a really wrong message to the community.
Okay.
I have a comment on the calendar. What was your comment on the calendar that the kids are off? The kids aren't off any longer this summer than they are in a normal summer, because we started sooner.
But we're starting sooner again. I missed last meeting, so I'm trying to read through the minutes and whatnot. And I thought we are starting earlier again this coming year, correct?
Yes, or we're starting
We're pushing the long summer to next summer.
to next summer.
Because it works better with the construction schedule. That's what it's
But
boiled
But it
down
was
to.
supposed to be this summer.
So we're
Right.
still only having one summer that's gonna be long.
But again, parents have, we changed it. People have plans that they've made based upon it. And we didn't get any feedback from the community. We didn't ask anybody about it. We just went through with it at one meeting, moved forward with it, correct?
Oh,
but
no, we ask people before we bring it to the board. We mentioned that we shared it with staff.
Did anything go
Sure.
out to parents to get input?
I think in most districts, I don't know if parent groups are a part of it. We can consider that in the future, but I've never heard of parent groups being a part of the calendar creation.
Right, there's so much that goes into making the calendar. I mean, it takes months to get that calendar set up. So, and it has to be set up for the benefit of the students. And the building project needs to be done in a timely manner so it can be completed as soon as possible so there's the least amount of disruption for students. So if we all have to take one summer or a part of a year where we have to adjust our schedules to make that happen, I think at the end of the day, the end result is that we're trying to get this done as quickly as possible so it's safe for everyone. We don't have overruns of time, which is going to expose everybody to a longer building project. So, we don't know what we don't know at certain times when we're working on that calendar. When we get more information, we can make another determination. And I think that's what's been done. And we decided to move that longer summer to the second half of the last part of the construction phase where it's going to be needed the most. So there was some confusion about when in the construction phase that longer summer was going to be needed, and it turns out that it's in that last phase, not this next one.
I think again, it just goes back to communication, to make sure that people know about it. So if they're making plans, people have already made plans, how do we make sure that we're communicating well enough so everybody is informed the whole process along?
Well, and I think that will happen now. It was just approved at the last meeting, and it won't go on the website until it's approved by the board. So it's been on there, and I'm sure we will have some communication about it going forward here. We're a long ways from there yet, too. So. And I don't know, when do you normally approve the calendar for the next year? A lot of times it's later.
Yeah, we wanted to get an earlier start on it because
Right.
of the different times, so I suppose we started before Christmas, looked at it. Everybody looks at it. Sue Bowman looks at it to count days for conferences. Jim looks at it to make sure we have all the right days. We haven't gotten any township board meeting days that we've got a conference going on, so we run it through all these different groups of people. Last thing we did was we asked the EA teachers, I think, the presidents to look at it. I'm not sure who else looked at it with them, but we brought it to the board in February, so, yeah, I hear what you're saying, Debbie.
I just think we have to, people plan vacations and all kinds of stuff, so.
And it doesn't, the best we can do when people plan vacations and the calendar changed is that we will be graceful with their kids and we'll be graceful with understanding that they planned a vacation, and we'll hold their kids harmless. These are a couple summers where it's difficult. We should maybe, just having this conversation, start communications about the next summer schedule. I point to Judd because we're the ones that started, and maybe we should start working on that and talking about that, because that's going to be an unusual one, but also planning summer school at the same time. So, yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to number 8, business items. We've got some motions on some transportation policies. So if I can get a motion to approve policy 707, transportation of public school students.
So moved.
Lane, second.
Second.
Scott, I'll give it to you.
Who would you give it to?
Scott.
Okay.
Okay, any discussion on policy 707? Okay, if not, we'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, motion passes. Okay. 8.3 is, I'll need a motion to approve policy 710, extracurricular transportation.
You skipped
You mean
over
702? Let's skip, I'm sorry, 8.2. Let's do that first, policy 709, student transportation safety.
I'll make a motion to approve policy 709.
Okay?
Second.
Okay. Okay, any discussion on that one? No, let's vote. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. None, okay. Motion passes. Now we can do 8.3. This is policy 710, extracurricular transportation.
I'll make a motion to approve 8.3.
Okay. Great. Second,
Second.
Carmel. All right, discussion?
I just want to add on this one that under Roman numeral 3, Jim and Edith have worked hard to make sure that on every extracurricular route, the coaching staff or the advisory staff has a compendium of the manifest for the kids that are on the bus. It's something that we got to thinking about. I wonder if our basketball team or our BPA, when they start traveling again. So kudos to, I'm gonna say Edith, because she went into our student accounting system. She has for every extracurricular from FFA to you name it, including every extracurricular, and Judd went into, what about field trips? What if we've got third graders on a trip to the Science Museum and something happens in the Lowry Tunnel? Every teacher who takes kids on a field trip, every extracurricular event that goes will have a manifest of every kid that could possibly be on that bus. And yeah, I also want to commend Jim on type 3 driving. Wow, he really does a great job for us on that, type 3 drivers. Thank you, Jim. That's all I have on that one.
Okay. Those policy 710. Okay, let's take a vote. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. No one, motion passes. Okay, 8.4 is policy 711, video recording on school buses. Anybody have a motion?
I will.
Okay. Jane, any second?
Second.
Cornell? Okay, any discussion on this one?
I just have a question about this one. Do we have video recording on all the buses capability?
We have 2 cameras on every bus.
If we look at the last sentence under the purpose, it said the purpose of this policy is to establish a school bus video recording system. Its system maybe is not quite the right word.
You're saying it sounds like we're going to.
Right.
Gotcha. Where is that?
Right on the top there.
Last sentence.
Oh, gotcha.
Number 1.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
procedure or something.
Yeah.
I don't think system is the right
Yeah,
word there.
yeah, okay.
Okay. anything
I'll
else?
amend my motion to include that sheet.
Good, okay. All right. Okay, as amended, all right.
If Carmel will do
Yep.
it.
Amend my second.
Okay.
You want to change it to procedure, is that what it is?
That sound good?
I think it's better than
Procedure.
system, yeah.
Protocol?
Or protocol processes or whatever.
Okay, well, let's vote on policy 711, then video recordings on school buses. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Okay, 8.5 is to approve the Southwest West Central Service Cooperative Membership Agreement for the 21-22 school year. Is there a motion?
I'll make that a motion.
Okay, Deb, second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that one?
I just was gonna say very briefly, I've gone through this with a fine tooth comb. How can we make any cuts to this? This is a a necessary and expensive contract, but this is more than just special education. On the top part here, we've got administrative solutions. These are things we have to have, health and safety. The business office and the MARS system, we have to have those support systems to run our businesses. The technology, we're looking at making some changes to that, some cuts to that in the future. Educational solutions down there, the special education services, we were able through, just coincidentally as a change of some IEPs, been able to make some minor cuts, but the goal is not to make cuts in special ed. The goal is to help kids get out of special education, but not to make cuts in this part of the system. So the rest of this is all pretty much as it is every year, year after year, and they provide good services that we need.
Okay, anything else? Otherwise, we'll vote. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The motion passes. Okay, 9.0 is meetings, and I think, William, you would like to maybe change that April 12th meeting to a week earlier,
Yeah, if possible.
if that's possible.
Can we put that in for the next board agenda?
Yeah,
Sure.
well, I just wanted to bring it up.
Oh,
I
I'm
just
sorry.
didn't want to
It's
forget,
just a
yeah.
request.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to forget that. We wanted to maybe consider that. All right, the next meeting then is March 8th. And then we'll see on the April one, and the May one is May 10th.
You said April 1?
April will be April 5th then, because it would be a week.
You're moving, okay, because I'll change that next week. It goes from 12th to the 5th?
Yeah.
I'm just requesting
The
that.
board will
I
have to
Requesting,
make
we'll
that.
make it, we'll vote on it next
All right,
month.
vote on it next
but
month,
just
yeah.
put it in your brain there, so, okay. All right, need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
second, all right. All right, let's take a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. There's none, the motion passes at